I'm not going to film in great detail the body of this purse because I don't think it's necessary. There's really not a lot to it. I'm going to mostly focus on the flap. But to start this purse, I did a slip stitch around the base. So I just did a slip stitch in every hole. And then for the foundation round, it has a total of 84 stitches, and you need an even number in your foundation. There are 5 increased stitches in every corner, and then each straight edge is single crochet and an increase alternating. And each end has 3 holes that each have a single crochet. After the foundation round, I did 1 round of single crochet back loop only to start the walls, and then I go into the 3-row pattern repeat. So round 1 and 2 are just single crochets, and then round 3 is puff stitches and single crochet stitches alternating. And so each time you do your round that has puff stitches in it, you're either going to begin with a single crochet or a puff stitch, and you will just determine which one to start first based on where your placement is. So you want your puff stitches to be staggered in between the puff stitches from the previous rounds. So to do the puff stitch, it's a yarn over and insert 3 times. And then yarn over and pull through all 7 loops, and that is your puff stitch, and then go right into your single crochet. And that is how you're going to do all of your 3rd round in your 3-round repeat. And end your body with a single crochet row and then a slip stitch on top of that. And I made mine tall enough that there are 10 rounds of the puff stitches. And the tail that I have where I cut my yarn after doing the slip stitch, I'm going to weave that in to the flap when I make it. The rings that I'm using for the purse strap do not need to be crocheted in because they will just slip through the stitches because they open. They have a hinge on them. So now I need to mark where my flap is going to go. And you can mark yours as wide as you want. This is just where I'm going to place my stitch markers, how wide I want my flap to be. And start with a little bit of a tail and then cast on to your purse by going in the back loop and in one of those loops, the top loop from like your back bump from that stitch. And the reason I'm doing this is because it sort of makes the flap work like a hinge. When you do that 1 stitch below, it sort of pulls it all down and it really looks like a hinged flap when it's completed. So I'm just going to do a single crochet and then 1 more single crochet because it's going to work like it's a chain 1. And then I'm going to mark that. And then I'm going to put a single crochet all the way across till I get to my stitch marker. Now I'm over where the tail is. I'm still working my tail from my start of this row, but I'm going to work in the tail from the slip stitch that I ended the body of the purse with. So I'm now going to be working in 2 tails until I get to the end. Now I'm going to put that last single crochet where the stitch marker is. And then I'm going to cut the tail from the start of this row, but I'm going to continue to work in the tail from the slip stitch round. So for the next row, you're going to chain 1, and turn your work. And then put a single crochet in every stitch for row 2. And this is the end of row 2. And you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. And row 3, we're going to skip the first stitch. So skip that first stitch and then a single crochet in the second stitch. And then we're going to back up to stitch 1, but we're going to go 2 rows below and put a puff stitch. But this time our puff stitch is going to be a yarn over and insert 4 times instead of 3. Go through all loops. And then we're going to repeat that pattern. So we're going to skip and then a single crochet and then back up to the skip stitch and then drop 2 rows below and put a puff stitch. And then that pattern gets repeated all the way to the end of the row. And your puff stitches should have 9 loops on them when you yarn over and pull through all of them. The last stitch in your row is going to be a single crochet. chain 1, turn your work, and now we're just going to repeat row 3. So every row for the rest of the flap is going to be skip, single crochet, and then back up, go down 2 rows, and put a puff stitch. When you finish the flap and get it as big as you want, do a row of single crochets so that the edge of the flap just has a nice tight look to it. And so I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work, and then I'm going to start by doing a decrease single crochet. And the reason I'm doing that is because sometimes when you crochet a flap, the edge of it tends to flare out just a little bit, and I want to bring that back in. So I'm going to put decrease stitches in the first 2 stitches and in the last 2 stitches of this row. For the next row, I'm going to need to crochet a row with skipping stitches so that I have an opening gap so that this clasp will go in there, and it'll still have yarn connecting it to hold it together, but it will also have a hole there so that the knob can go through the hole. So I'll show you how I'm going to do that. And if you're using any kind of a clasp that has a hole like this, you're going to need to do it this way. So to do this last row, I'm going to chain one, turn my work, and I'm doing single crochets again, starting the row and ending the row with decreased stitches. And then in the middle of the flap, I'm going to skip stitches and just do chains and then pick it back up on the other side. So I'm going to come and do the back loop only. This is optional. I just like the way it looks, so that's why I'm doing back loop only. And depending on how big your flap is or what type of clasp you have, that will determine how many stitches you need to skip. And now I'm going to cut my yarn and tie it off. And then I can weave in the tail into the flap.